Well, an electric atmosphere in Carver Hawkeye Arena on this Friday night ends in an Iowa defeat. But certainly the psyches of Iowa wrestling have not been damaged because, boy, what a impressive finish for Iowa. Tony Cassiope, excuse me, with the heavyweight victory to finish things off. But again, the Hawkeyes falling 19-13 to the number one team in the land, and we saw why. Um, Penn State is still at the top. I know Iowa, of course, um, you could stake the claim that Iowa's right there, but I think, we saw certainly just from the outset, and Iowa dug itself a hole early. I believe it was, 10-0, losing the first three bouts, and it just was an uphill battle from there. Alex Marinelli really helped them stay alive in this duel. But again, just too much from Penn State. They are just loaded. And I've never claimed to be a huge wrestling guru, so I'm hopeful that the next 25, 30 minutes of this show, and we can go longer if we've got people on here, but I plan on about a 30-minute show here. I'm hopeful that people who are here listening can help make this show happen. All right, I've got the call line open. Please share this on social media so that we can get the word out and get as many people here as possible. This is the first ever wrestling show that I have done here, and I'm happy to do it because this is what an event, what a great atmosphere in Carver. Um, it's just I marvel every time I see Kale Sanderson and Tom Brands on opposite sides of the mat, and I think it's just an awesome thing for Iowa. It's just the state of Iowa, and the state of Iowa wrestling is back to what it was, right? And I think there was a lull there, and yeah, Iowa coming up short this evening, but certainly their hopes of a national team title, still very well alive. And of course, Spencer Lee, without him, it changes a lot. I mean, he is a generational athlete, and so yeah, it's difficult not to have Spencer Lee in a duel like this against Penn State, who certainly looks like the best team in the country. Drill MVP is with us, starting a match down 8-3 isn't good. I don't know much about wrestling, though, and I was thinking it was, maybe you are right. Maybe it was 8-3. I don't have that in front of me. Yeah, the bottom line is the hole to start out with, whatever that was. It's an uphill battle. And again, Caleb Young, Max Mira, and Alex Marinelli. I thought Alex Marinelli really fought to get that win over Brady Bergen. I know Brady's not certainly top in his class. And it looked like Jacob Warner was going to keep Iowa alive. But Max Dean, boy, he came up with some magic, and you can see why he's near the top of his weight class. He was really good in coming back in the final seconds of that match to take down Jacob Warner and seal the duel. So, yeah, it was certainly an impressive. You're right. 8-3. I looked at the score wrong. Although what am I seeing here? 120. Yeah, 125. So Hildebrand over Ibarra. Of course, DeSanto falling, and then Jaden Ironman falling. That's just a tough deficit to overcome. But again, boy, I don't think you're going to get a better atmosphere in college wrestling. Again, I'm no wrestling guru, but you're not going to get a better atmosphere than you just got in Carver. And Iowa, it doesn't get a lot easier for Iowa. Iowa gets Wisconsin a week from tomorrow. Of course, they've got their trip to play Oklahoma State. So there are going to be some opportunities, but this is what you want if you're an Iowa wrestling fan. These kinds of matchups on a Friday or Saturday night, and certainly there are some more to come. Our call line is open, 515-635-1601. Again, if you're just joining us, Iowa falling to Penn State, and there are no such thing as moral victories, and certainly Tom Brands, as I'm saying this, I know the Tom Brands special on BTN is airing, so hopefully I'm not pulling people away from that. Certainly, that has been something that has been well promoted by the Big Ten Network for quite some time now. And certainly the story of Tom and Terry Brands is just spectacular. But again, this is exactly what you want from a duel like this. And to see Carver packed and loud, what an environment. I'm not going to say it was better than, well, I think it probably was better than Iowa men's basketball last night, right? I mean, yeah, you have the number 6 team in the country and hoops coming to town, but There's something special about a wrestling crowd, and certainly Friday night helps, right? But it was a late start. It was an 8 o'clock start, and we make excuses for men's basketball. Here we are. This duel didn't get over till 10:30 Central Time, and I didn't see a bunch of people leaving. So the people that say that the late starts really hurts the crowd, that might be partially true. But again, that wrestling crowd is sure loyal to this team, and again, they got a nice treat to finish things off. So Tony Cassiope over Greg Kirkvliet um, in the final duel, and final match. I've got the total victories for Penn State. So they win at 125, 133, 141, 174, 184, and 197. Iowa, of course, the victories at 149, 157, 165, 285. So Iowa, again, kind of takes advantage, climbs back into this thing, and of course, tied it. It was tied at 10 apiece. I believe prior to the Kemmer battle with Starochi. And again, I thought he battled hard. I thought Michael Kimmer battled hard. Starochi's really good, as is Aaron Brooks. Aaron Brooks, I think that was it felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. It wasn't over at that point, but man, Aaron Brooks is good. We marvel at Spencer Lee, but that guy is really, really good. I know that I see Ray's comment here about Kemmer. I get it. And as I'm watching this, and again, I'm not a guy who watches every duel that I can watch. Of course, not every duel is televised, but and I'm talking Big Ten in general. Big Ten hoops, I'll watch any game that's on. But when I saw the officiating and certainly the replay controversy in the duel tonight, I flashed back to basketball and some of the complaints that we've seen, and it just goes to show you that officiating issues and controversy is in any sport. I know there were people frustrated last night after some calls that went against Iowa, and I get it. But it was close, Ray. And again, maybe you can explain to me, in that situation, to me there was no change in position, and I know that the commentators brought this up on the Big Ten Network. There was no change in position there. So not sure what the call was. If the call was made, clearly the call was signaled after the clock hit zero, right? The call was signaled after the clock hit zero. But I think the question becomes, were the points scored after the clock hit zero? I don't care when the signal came, were the points scored after the clock hit zero? And it kind of goes back to, if you want to think of an analogy with football, a coach may signal for a timeout right before the clock hits zero. But if the official doesn't see it and acknowledge it and blow the whistle before the clock hits zero, then it's a different discussion. So it is one of those rules. I think it's unfortunate that replay didn't. I mean, again, I'm biased here, but to me, those points should have counted. And again, Michael Kimmer just fought. I mean, he just fought hard in that match. But again, it was just for naught, and he falls to Carter Starochi. Ray says, I think Iowa is right there with them, and it can go either way on any given day. Penn State scores with more bonus points, so they will win the title. Yeah, again, I'm not going to claim to be an expert on this, Ray. I really thought Aaron Brooks, I think 184, and again, maybe you can tell me differently, but Iowa was a bit exposed at 184. I like Abe Assad. I know he's grown a lot, but Aaron Brooks is just so dominant at that weight class. I think if you add Spencer Lee to the mix, I think I would agree with you. But without Spencer, I don't know that I can go that far right now. But they are right there. It's still 1 and 2. So whether there's a significant gap or not, again, 19-13, I don't think you can argue that's a significant gap, especially just as far as scoring is concerned. But the bottom line is Iowa had a shot. They had a shot. Again, you win that match at 197. The heavyweight fight becomes a whole lot more consequential. But it's great to see that. That's what I love about Iowa wrestling fans. I did not see a huge trough of people leave at the conclusion of Jacob Warner's defeat. I didn't. And that is a testament to fans late on. It's a Friday night, so Saturday is not as hard for people, right? But late on a Friday night, and you have Iowa wrestling fans sticking around for Tony Cassiope, who, by the way, not to be confused with Tony Rassiope, who I've talked about, Spencer Petrus's quarterback's coach. Drill MVP, when Max won by decision, that ended the match. Yeah. I mean, officially it did. So, and again, it looked like Jacob Warner, it's incredible what I thought he wrestled well for 90% of that matchup, and boy, those last 30 seconds killed him. And it's just, again, you're going up against one of the best in the business in Max Dean. There's no question about it. I agree with this, Ray. Add Spencer to we win the duel. I think it'd still be close. Penn State is right there with Iowa, with or without Spencer. And I think the rankings have it right. Right now, Penn State is clearly number 1. Iowa is clearly number 2. And certainly losing Spencer is a killer. It's just a killer. But you love the fight out of these guys, and man alive. Again, I'm not a wrestling guy. I've said that like 3 times already, but man, watching these guys compete tonight, you earn some respect if you're an Iowa wrestler from just about anybody who took a minute to watch that duel tonight, and on both ends. I mean, we look at what Cale Sanderson has built, and I should say built at Penn State, but certainly maintained, sustained over the years. It's been unbelievable, and Tom Brands and his brother, those guys have brought Iowa wrestling back to, I mean, I think it's safe to say close to the Dan Gable years, maybe not quite to the dominance yet. I think there's still some things to be proven there, but boy, what a treat. What a treat to have this duel right here in the state of Iowa, and to have Iowa City kind of recognized as I think the Big Ten Network tweeted out before the meet began that it was the Mecca of college wrestling, and that's great. That's awesome. That has not left Iowa. That is still here, and it's very much alive. All right, our phone number 515-635-1601, 515-635-1601. We're talking Iowa's defeat to the hands of Penn State, 19-13. And certainly, if you can, please share this on social media. Tell others that I know the wrestling community is very tight knit, and we have not been doing post duels for wrestling at all this year. And I had somebody reach out prior to the season. I remember, I don't know who it was, but somebody requested that we do wrestling post duels. I'm telling you, you don't want me to do a wrestling post duel every night, because first of all, I'd have no idea what I'm talking about most of the time. I'm not going to act like some seasoned veteran as it relates to the sport of wrestling. Again, I am an admirable Hawkeye fan as it relates to Iowa wrestling, but I'm not going to call myself an expert. But I'll say this: I'm happy to do the show because that was high quality content on a Friday night. There's no question about it. But please share this on social media. Help us to gain a few listeners if you can. Mr. CEO, what is the call-in topic tonight, Cory? Well, Mr. CEO, I'm going to leave that open to you. You're welcome to call in about Iowa wrestling. That's why we're here, right? We're here to talk Iowa Penn State, but just kind of like it was last night with the Iowa Purdue game. Sometimes people don't want to talk about a loss, and I get that. So if you want to vent about other sports, other Iowa-related content, that's fine. If you want to talk about Caleb Williams possibly going to Wisconsin, that is fine. And in answer to Drill MVP, yes, you can call in and talk about other Iowa sports. Absolutely. I'm going to leave this open. But again, if you're going to talk Iowa wrestling, have at it. Would love to take any calls that we can as it relates to Iowa wrestling or Iowa sports in general. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, Cory, it's the real MVP.
Hey, sir. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good. It was the first time I've watched a wrestling match in probably a year or two. I casually watched it at the Olympics, so.
Yeah. What'd you think?
It was a good match. It was very technical, but it's like with any other sport. If you start in a hole, the psychological advantage that it takes on you is difficult to overcome.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Especially,
again, I was impressed with the fight. And you knew that Tom Brand's guys were not going to fold. We heap so much praise on Spencer Lee, and deservedly so. But I tell you, Alex Marinelli, that guy is such he's just the epitome of Iowa and what it means to be an Iowa wrestler. But yeah, it's just hard to, especially against that team. Like if there's any team you don't want to get into a hole early with, it's Penn State. But credit to Iowa, they climb back in it to tie it up. But you're right, just too little, too late.
right. And one of the things I thought was, well, I typed it in the chat, but when Max won his by decision with the last 10 seconds, I mean, that sealed it. Because it was possible, you get a takedown or two. It could have gone Iowa's way at the end. But when he won, he had that I think it was 5-pointer at the end. I mean, that sealed it.
Yeah.
Over. And that was.
Yeah, and I do want to mention this. I don't want to cut you off there, but Ray brings up a good point. Iowa women's basketball did win tonight, so that's a positive. He also adds Caleb Young, although he won, was disappointing. 12th ranked wrestler in the country, should get bonus points against a 6'6" sophomore. Yeah, and again, that's part of Iowa's. That was part of Iowa's struggles early. Even though he won, Iowa needed more out of him. So.
Well, I'll talk about the women's basketball game. Iowa had to go into overtime to beat Northwestern.
Have you become? I got to ask you this, Darrell MVP. Have you become like an Iowa sports junkie? Because you're here watching Iowa wrestling. Apparently you knew what happened in the Iowa women's basketball game. Like, have you become a closet Iowa fan?
I am not a closet Iowa fan. There's certain football teams that I watch that I respect because they remind me of my team in Kentucky. Yeah. Iowa is a lunch pail, blue-collar team, and I respect them for it.
Oh, and it's the Stoops to Iowa connection, right?
Oh, yeah, that too. And, I mean, listen, I love teams who grit and grind their way to greatness instead of being flashy and always great. And Oklahoma State is another team like that I root for occasionally. If I don't have, I casually root for them because they just got that grit and grind.
And that shouldn't surprise you, as dominant as Oklahoma State has been on the mat over the years.
Oh, yeah. It's with any sport. I had a few wrestling friends back in high school who went to college wrestling, so I actually watched probably more matches than most people, which is kind of weird to think about. But yeah, it's a very technical sport. It's a very technical sport, and which I think is probably why it's so underwatched is because it's not like basketball or football where the average person just casually come in and know instantly what's happening. I mean, there's so many small adjustments and details that are happening at all times.
Absolutely.
So, and Cory, the final thing I'll ask you about tonight is, can I talk to you about your rankings that actually make sense?
You're going to tell me they don't make sense? You're welcome to call them out. Absolutely.
Listen, man, I respect some of those rankings, okay? But I had two issues.
Okay.
Auburn is the number one team in the country.
They haven't played the schedule. They have not played the schedule.
They're the number one team.
Well, but they have not played this. But they haven't proven it against the schedule that Baylor has. And again, they might be, but you can say they're the best team, but have they proved it yet? I don't think you can say that at this point.
Yeah.
And I know you're biased. You're an SEC fan, the real MVP. I get it.
Yes. I mean, look at you realize the only game they lost, they scored 107 points.
Well,
I mean,
that doesn't really matter. They lost the game, right? Who are you talking about? What game are you talking about?
They lost to UConn in double overtime. 115-107.
Yeah, I remember that game.
So but when it comes to basketball in particular, it's not like football where a win is a win type. The style of the win matters a whole lot.
Okay, but Darrell MVP, let me just explain this. So, played Morehead State. They played Louisiana Monroe. They played South Florida. They lost to UConn in overtime, gave up 115 in double OT. They beat Loyola Chicago, but Loyola Chicago is not the team. I mean, that's a good Loyola team, but probably not the team that we expected them to be, at least in late November. Syracuse is trash. Okay. Central Florida's no good. Yale's no good. Nebraska's trash. North Alabama. I mean, I'm not. You get what I'm saying. The non-conference schedule was not difficult.
The non-conference schedule isn't that great.
No.
Loyola Chicago's a tournament team.
You're right. They're a tournament team, as is. I don't know if St. Louis is. St. Louis. It's a good program, and that was a good win. But I'll admit I didn't watch that game. Murray State's a good program. Yale, I guess, for an Ivy League school. But I'm just saying, to make a claim to be number one at this point, you have to be special.
If Baylor and Auburn had the same amount of losses, I would go with Baylor because they got the tougher schedule. But Auburn has one less loss, and that's got to matter. And I don't think their schedules are so far apart where it's a clear separation where they could lose an additional game. They also, because Auburn's beaten at Alabama, they beat Kentucky, they beat LSU. These are good teams.
You're right. No, listen, especially when we're talking, we're still in January, your real MVP. I mean, we've got 2 months left to prove these things out and bear them out. Auburn's going to have a chance because the SEC is not what it used to be, and you know it. The SEC has been a one-trick pony at times over the past 10 to 15 years. It has been, but it's no longer with Auburn in the mix for Final Fours. But
we lost to Auburn a few years ago in an Elite Eight game, and they cost us a spot at the Final Four.
And I saw your comment. I saw your comment on the rankings too about Houston, but Houston has not played the schedule. I mean, they just haven't.
They haven't. Well, here's the team I think I have a problem with most being behind is Duke. I think Houston should be ahead of Duke.
I could see that. Yeah. I don't have a problem with that.
And you had Duke at 10 and you had Houston at 13. I mean, Duke, especially lately, they're unraveling. Losing to Miami, Florida State, almost losing to Clemson at home. Clemson's horrible. So, And then Houston, I mean, listen, Oregon's not that good. They're an average team. They beat them by 35 points. That's got to amount to something. I mean, just a complete thumping of them. They beat Oklahoma State on the road by double digits. Their only losses were at Alabama in a neutral site game to Wisconsin. Those are. It's not like they've lost to horrible teams.
Well, here's what I'll say, and I don't want to just go on a rant about college basketball and rankings, because I'm sure some people want to talk wrestling. But here's what I'll say. As it relates to the top 25, at this point, if you had to ask me who I think the best team in the country is, I would say probably Gonzaga or Baylor. And I know you're going to disagree with that. I could see somebody saying they think Auburn is the best team. But as far as resume, to me, there's no question it cannot be Auburn as far as resume. And again, that's just based off of strength of victories and strength of schedule as a whole. You're right. UConn's not a bad loss on the road. I don't care if you gave up 115. It was in double overtime. But, I mean, you look at Baylor's schedule. The Big 12 is just loaded. And there's really no conversation between the Big 12 and the SEC right now. Can we agree on that?
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, we can absolutely agree on that. Big 12 is the best conference by far.
Well, I think the Big 10's right there. I'm biased. But you look at Baylor.
Well, yeah, I would say I think it's possible. Or actually, I think it's probable the Big 12 has 3 of the top 8-9 teams in the country.
I mean, look at the fact that Baylor beat Michigan State by 17. All right. They've got a win over Arizona State. They beat Villanova by 21, held them to 36 points. Beat Baylor on the, I believe that was that game on the road? I believe it was. Yeah, that was in Eugene. And then they go into Big 10 play or Big 12 play. And yeah, I get they lost 2 straight home games. They won at Iowa State. They won at West Virginia, won at Oklahoma. So, I mean, we're still early. I mean, the Big 12 season is just like the Big 10 season. It's less than half done. But I just, to me, at this point, they've got a better resume collectively.
That's fine. I mean, what would it take, though, for Auburn to be number one? Let me ask that.
What would it take?
Yeah.
Well, if they keep winning, I mean, the SEC is not a slouch conference, and if they keep winning, then I have no problem putting them at the top of the rankings. But if Baylor keeps winning too, they've got the edge because of strength of schedule. But they're not going to. The Big 12 is too tough, just like the Big 10 is too tough. I think Purdue is one of the 4 best teams in the country. You watched them last night. I think they have a claim to be a
Oh, I don't know if I would go that far. I'd go 10, but 4, because that means you're putting them in the Final Four.
I don't know. We'll see. Last year we thought the Big 10 was something, and then they struggled in the tournament. You can't base your opinions of a conference solely on NCAA tournament play, but that certainly plays a major role in it. So unfortunately, whether that's correct or incorrect, that's just how it is.
Well, that's why the Pac-12 is getting tons of respect this year, because most of the major upsets were Power 5 related with the Pac-12, with USC beat Kansas by 32 in the tournament. There's a very short list of teams who have beat Kansas by more than that in the tournament. I guarantee it. I've not looked it up. If anybody's done that,
that's
UCLA.
That's the Mobley brothers effect.
Yeah, UCLA made it to the Final Four and lost to Gonzaga on an overtime buzzer beater. Oregon State made it to the Sweet 16. Oregon State. Nobody's talking about them last year. So that's why they're getting tons of respect. And I noticed in your poll, you weren't giving the Big 12 no respect. I kind of like it. Arizona at 5, UCLA not even in the top 10.
Well, UCLA hasn't been playing. That's my problem with UCLA. They haven't been playing.
Well, I imagine they're going to move up though because they beat Arizona.
Yeah, but no, they'll definitely move up. Yeah, but I see that's my problem, and that's why I'm not trying to toot my horn on this poll, the real MVP. But people were ranking Arizona. I mean, Arizona. I know in the AP poll got at least one first place vote. How could you say with a straight face that Arizona deserved to be ranked number 1? I mean, they just don't have the wins.
All right, I can agree with that, but now, I think people look at the losses as well more than the wins.
Yeah, I mean, they beat a undermanned Illinois team, and the Michigan team they beat is just not very good right now. And then they've had the game against UCLA was postponed. Of course, UCLA just beat Arizona, but yeah, I just think, and that was kind of why I was inspired to do that poll, because I just think it's sort of like college football. Mark Rogers does a great job of sort of looking at the resumes of these teams, and that's kind of what I tried to do. And everybody has the right to their opinion. I don't mind anybody disagreeing with me.
Well, Cory, one of the things I love doing is I love disagreeing with people in general and finding flaws. Yeah, because I'm going to come out and say it's impossible to make a top 25 ranking that is 100% going to please everybody. So it's fun to pick people's rankings and understand why they chose the teams where they did.
Absolutely. We can agree on that.
Yeah. Also, if it makes you feel better, I also did it to Mark Rogers for about 3 or 4 weeks with Oklahoma. He would have Oklahoma before the Baylor game at like 2 or 3, and I said, no, they're 8 or 9. Yeah, so I'm not just giving it to you.
They sleepwalk through most of the season, but boy, they finished strong.
Yeah. Well, Cory, it was good talking to you. I guess sorry about the Iowa wrestling loss. You're a huge Iowa wrestling fan. Congrats on the win. Well, I'm sure Caitlin Clark played outstanding.
Oh, Caitlin Clark is on a different level. And I'm not a huge Iowa wrestling fan, but certainly I root for him. And how can you not be in, just like I said, a great environment and just a great matchup with Iowa Penn State. It's these are the types of events. It's not just a duel; it's an event that makes sports great. So I enjoyed it, and I know a lot of Iowa fans did, despite the loss.
Yeah. Well,
all right,
Cory,
sir.
I think that's all I got for you.
All right, sir. We will talk to you next time. Have a great night.
You do the same.
The real MVP. Appreciate the call from him, and our line is open here. We'll hang out here for a few more minutes. Iowa, of course, falling to Penn State, 19-13. And again, had a chance late. I know we've said it already, but Tony Cassiope with an impressive heavyweight victory over Greg Kerkvliet, and again, Max Dean over Jacob Warner. That was the one that kind of sealed the deal. Alex Marinelli kept Iowa in it. Kemmer, I thought he held his own against Orochi, but ultimately just Aaron Brooks' victory over Abe Assad, and then Warner ended, with his fall to his decision against Max Dean really hurt Iowa. Thank you for calling from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Mark from Detroit.
Hey, Mark from Detroit. How are you?
I'm doing good. Hey, I was looking up the Caleb Williams to Wisconsin news, and at first I thought it was just, okay, no way. But it looked like it's really, really a possibility. I personally think he's gonna end up at USC when the smoke clears. But if he ends up going to Wisconsin with their defense, that'll be a scary sight.
Are you a Wisconsin fan, sir?
No, I'm a Michigan fan.
Okay.
Yeah, I still like Iowa, so I root pretty much. I mean, I'm a diehard Michigan fan, of course, but I root for all Big Ten teams. But if he ends up going there, I'm gonna just say, luckily we don't have them on the schedule next year. That's Ohio State's problem next year. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much to read into the reports that are out there about Caleb Williams to Wisconsin. I know the court, was it the tight ends coach? Is it tight ends coach or quarterbacks coach? The Ingram guy that I know there's a connection there with Caleb Williams from high school with, I believe, his son who played high school ball and is at Wisconsin now.
Yeah, I heard about that. And they say this probably don't mean much, but they said Monty Ball been making a hell of a recruiting pitch to him. But that and I know a lot of people are saying, well, if he goes to Wisconsin, their offense is gonna sort of bog him down. But I'm like, nah, I don't.
Well,
a player of his caliber, I don't think it's possible.
Look what happened with Russell Wilson. I mean, I'm not saying
exactly.
that you can. It's just one. I know it's one example. But when Caleb Williams entered the portal and he stated matter-of-factly that he wanted to go to a program that had a history of grooming quarterbacks and making them pros, certainly Wisconsin would not have been at the top of my list. But when it happened, I had Iowa fans laughing at me because I said I think Iowa needs to pursue. I mean, I'm not saying they need to invest everything they have in getting this kid to come here. Maybe it's not realistic, but Iowa had the connection with Bob Stoops. It would not have been hard for Kirk Ferentz to give Bob Stoops a call and say, hey, can you put in a good word for us? Can you get us in touch with Caleb? We'd like to talk to him and at least entertain the idea. And I don't believe Iowa ever did that. Of course, not behind the scenes. I can't, I guess, validate that. But this is further proof, sir, that to me, Wisconsin just has an edge right now over Iowa in several categories, which puts them in a position to compete for more titles than the likes of an Iowa, who should be right there. And there's no reason for Iowa not to be right there with Wisconsin. But Wisconsin has been able to land. You mentioned Monty Ball. I mean, you can go down the list. Melvin Gordon, Braylon Allen, Agumba Wale. I mean, you can just go down the list. Certainly, Jonathan Taylor may be the best running back in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
And they were able to land Russell Wilson, and now they've also, if they get Caleb Williams, I just think it's sad as an Iowa fan base. I'd be looking at that frustrated that, hey, why can Wisconsin even entertain that and we can't? That's what I'd be saying if I was an Iowa fan, which I am. But I'm just saying from an Iowa perspective, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Iowa, I'm sure you probably agree with this also, is just a quarterback away. But hey, Michigan, we got our own problems. Half the fan base want Cade McNamara. Half the fan base, myself included, is like, hell no. Turn the keys over to JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
Immediately. And because I feel like not the national championship game, but the game versus Georgia showed it. Cade McNamara, he can get you there, but he can't win it. And a lot of Michigan fans, we haven't been in this position in so long. So a lot of them are saying, oh, he won a Big Ten. He got to the playoff. Well, I mean, the goal is to win it all. So there's still another level. So you know. But it should be an interesting, off season with all the transfers and NIL and just seeing how everything plays out.
So you don't sound too concerned about Jim Harbaugh leaving.
Um, no, at first I was a little worried. I was like, okay, this loss, the Raiders sound, this sound like it might be true, but just from seeing him out recruiting in everything, and I'm hearing, and when I say I'm hearing, I'm getting all my news from Twitter. The blue check marks on Twitter.
Sure.
A lot of them are saying that he hasn't even interviewed. That information would have came out. You can't really hide that if you interviewed. So a lot of them are saying the interest might not be as high as some people believe in him returning to the NFL, or rather teams being interested in him. But to be honest, if he leaves, I'm cool with it. He a great coach, but it's not like losing, a Nick Saban or a Dabo Swinney or hell, even a Lincoln Riley. I mean, he can be replaced. It may take a few years to really get back on track, but But I think losing Mike McDonald, the Baltimore Ravens, as the defensive coordinator, now that might be a big loss. That might be a big loss, but which most of us knew it was a 1 or 2 or maybe 3 years max rental. Anyway, but yeah,
Well,
we'll see how it goes.
I'm curious how you found this channel.
Just on YouTube, just randomly, going down the YouTube wormhole, and I just found the channel.
So I got to ask you then. So you were not around. You have not. I'm assuming you were not a subscriber over at Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Are you a subscriber to any of the Voice of College Football channels like Michigan?
What's the guy? The I believe, yeah, that's the guy. What's his name? Oh, he has a lot of you guys on from different teams about the Big
Mark
Ten.
Rogers.
I believe I'm subscribed to his channel. I believe
you're subscribed to his main channel. Okay. Well, I'm just curious. I'm just curious because I took a ton of flack when I selected Iowa to win the Big Ten championship, and of course I was way off.
Hey, I mean, who cares? I mean, that's number one.
Michigan fans scared. Michigan fans didn't like that. It wasn't anything personal. I felt good about the game. I felt good about the game going into it. I was off. I was wrong. But that's why make predictions.
Yeah. But to be honest, I'm gonna be honest. I wasn't that well. I mean, I thought we were gonna win, but I could have easily saw Michigan lose in that game because I was assuming, I was like, okay, I was gonna have a great defense. Everybody was like, well, how are they gonna score? I was like, well, if you watch football, I mean, teams could score in plenty of different ways. Stuff happens. They could get a short field. They could do trick plays. So, But
yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I knew we were gonna get our butts kicked by Georgia. Like that was. They were. Oh, we're gonna beat Georgia. Oh, I think we're gonna. No, I knew it because the talent gap is when you make it to the playoffs, that's when the 5 stars really show. So that's why I say we got to go with JJ McCarthy straight up. Like, Cade, if you want to transfer, thank you, but we got to get some real deal talent on the field.
Well, there's no question that unfortunately, I hate to admit this, but I think there's very little question that the 2 best teams played for the national title in football. I think that was played out in the field, unfortunately, because again, it doesn't help the cause for an expanded playoff, but I think just the dominance that Alabama and Georgia both displayed in the semifinals.
Yeah. But I'm gonna say this, Cory. I do agree that the 2 best teams played, right? So this might contradict what I'm about to say next, but I don't like the fact that it's only 4 spots in the playoff, right?
Yep.
And going into the SEC championship game, right? Georgia pretty much knew that, hey, we can afford a loss and we're gonna still be in the playoffs. So like I just didn't like that. All the commentators, oh, Georgia's gonna be in regardless. So and I was like, if it's only 4 spots, one team shouldn't, have a spot just automatically, like that. But
I hear you.
like you say, the two best teams ended up playing. So then again, it all worked out. But I really didn't like that. I just thought that's a little, that to me that shows why it needs to be expanded.
I agree.
In my opinion.
I want to see it too. I think it's going to be a while, unfortunately, but I want to see it too.
Yeah, they say the Big Ten is holding it up. I think it's the Big Ten and the Pac-12 because I don't want to quote it wrong, but it's something with the SEC, like something about an ESPN deal, something about that. But yeah, hopefully in the next several years, they expand it so we could get more teams in.
Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. I'd love to see it, but I think it'll probably be 24 or 25 before it happens.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, hey. But all right, I enjoyed calling in. First time caller.
All right, man. Thanks for the call. Call us anytime.
All right.
All right. Have a good night. Thank you.
All right. You too.
Appreciate the calls this evening and appreciate everybody hanging on. I know, again, we kind of segued away from Iowa Penn State wrestling, but to kind of wrap things up, and again, hopefully you stuck with us through that conversation, but Penn State defeating Iowa 19-13. Iowa getting victories in the classes of 149, 157, 165, and then, of course, the heavyweight class at 285 with Tony Cassiope. Of course, Penn State took advantage of Iowa without Spencer Lee. They win at 125, 133, 141, 174, 184, and then, of course, that big victory at 197. So, to me, Penn State looks like the better team right now, but Iowa's going to certainly have an opportunity for more individual titles. And they're not out of certainly they could still win the team title. It's going to be an uphill battle. Penn State's good, and that was displayed tonight, but a great environment inside Carver Hawkeye Arena this evening. Appreciate everybody joining us here for a kind of spontaneous live for 30 to 40 minutes. Hope you all have a great and safe rest of your weekend, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great night.